If you look at any film critic's list of the greatest American films of all time, The Godfather will be somewhere near the top of that list. If it's not, throw out that list because that critic is stupid, and listening to stupid people is worse than finding a horse's head in your bed. The way I see it, there are basically two kinds of movies. The kind you sit in a theater with a bucket of popcorn and watch without having to think too much. Some are great, and some suck. Then you have art house movies with layers of symbolism and cinematic technique.
Oh, I love that shot the first time when it was in Nosferatu.
Some are great, and some suck. But it's the middle of that Venn diagram where the magic happens. Movies that entertain, but also have that added layer of depth and complexity. The Godfather is one of the few movies that I would say is better than the book. Now that's not a slam on Mario Puzo. After all, he and Coppola wrote the screenplay together, and Coppola is the first to tout Puzo's brilliance.
Everything from The Godfather, what makes The Godfather movie wonderful, comes from the book.
Just that the book had some trashy elements they wisely cut out of the movie. But more importantly, Coppola and Puzo saw this as an opportunity to reinvent the gangster genre.
What we consider real art is a movie that does not have a safety net. Godfather 1 did not have a safety net. It was made on its own terms. It didn't also have a few dozen car crashes and whatever the formula is.
There are a million great things about The Godfather. Any director will talk about how great Francis Ford Coppola's direction was. Actors will talk about how great Pacino's method acting was. Cinematographers and lighting directors will talk about how beautifully the movie was shot. Sound designers will gush about the killing Sollozzo scene and the sound of the trains building tension. But since I'm a writer and a sucker for character arcs and theme, I'm going to focus on the story, specifically the relationship between Michael and Vito and how it elevated this movie to a masterpiece. And it should go without saying that if you haven't seen The Godfather yet, stop watching this stupid video. It's about to get more spoiled than a box of cannoli left in a hot car for a month. And yeah, cannoli is plural, and don't say cannolis because it hurts my ears. Every movie or novel has a what is it about, but what is it really about? The Godfather is about the secession of an aging Mafia don's empire. But it's really about so much more. It's about family, power, corruption, the promise of America, hypocrisy, fate, destiny, the plight of the immigrant, the plight of the immigrant's children, the role of America after World War II. If I could boil the theme down to one sentence, it's family shapes a person's destiny, no matter how much they try to escape it. But when I say family, I don't just mean mother, father, brother, sister. I mean all that comes with family, tradition, heritage. In the case of the Corleones, you could take the family out of Sicily, but you can't take the Sicily out of the family. The Godfather starts with a man named Amerigo Bonacera asking Don Corleone for a favor. And the first line we hear is, "I believe in America." So we're starting with a bunch of theme right off the top. And what is the favor Bonacera asks? His daughter was beat up by a couple of lowlives for not letting them take advantage of her.
She kept it on her.
The courts did nothing about it. America has let him down. So he had to go to Don Corleone for justice. And what does Don Vito ask for in return? Friendship.
I can't remember the last time that you invited me to your house for a cup of coffee. Even though my wife is godmother to your only child.
Be my friend?
Good.
And he'd owe him a favor. I mean, he is a Mafia Don. We see right away that Vito is a man who adheres to the old world Sicilian traditions, and he believes in helping Italians here in America. He has a code. He's a murderer and a criminal, but he has a code. His next favor is to help Enzo the baker stay in America. So he's helping an Italian transition to becoming Italian-American. The third favor is to help Johnny Fontaine get a part in a movie. What does Vito ask him?
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
During the wedding, he refuses to take the family photo until Michael arrives. We learn a lot about Vito in this opening sequence. His priorities are family. He justifies his criminal behavior because he sees America as corrupt and believes he's helping his fellow Italians get by in a corrupt country. One romanticized view of the Mafia in Italy is that it started because the government was so corrupt that people needed a way to protect themselves from the corrupt government. And then it became more corrupt than the government, but that's a whole other story. Suffice it to say, Vito doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees himself as a champion of the underdog. He does what he has to do to get by in a corrupt country and provide for his family. Then we meet Michael. He shows up in his military uniform, which is a clear statement that he is apart from his family. He just fought for his country in World War II, very much against his father's wishes. Michael also brings his waspy American girlfriend, Kay. When he tells her stories of his family, he's quick to distance himself, saying, "That's my family, Kay. That's not me." So we learn a lot about Michael in that opening sequence. He's a war hero who wants nothing to do with the family business. He wants to be his own man and doesn't care what plans his father had for him. Going to college and later joining the Marines was his attempt to break from the fate that his family had planned for him. Of course, one could say fighting in the war made him a more capable killer, and going to college made him more able to run a multifaceted business. Two traits that enabled him to take over his father's throne, but he did those things thinking he was running away from his destiny. The main plot of the movie kicks off with the meeting with Sollozzo. Sollozzo wants Vito to use his political connections to get into the drug trade. Vito wants nothing to do with it, seeing drugs as dangerous. He has no moral problem with it, but he fears losing his political connections, which would risk the safety of his family. The meeting goes south when Sonny speaks out of turn.
Oh, are you telling me that the Italians guarantee our
Wait a
investment?
minute. I have a sentimental weakness for my children, and I spoil them, as you can see. They talk when they should listen. What's the matter with you?
Vito is not happy about Sonny's mistake.
Never tell anybody outside the family what you're thinking again.
Sonny's misspeaking causes the Turk to think if he could kill the Don, Sonny would make the deal. So it was Vito's son and heir apparent that accidentally led to the attempt on his life. His family almost led to his downfall. And Fredo wasn't exactly much help. During the failed murder attempt, Michael is in the city with Kay. There was a deleted scene, and the book makes it clear that Michael lied to his family about when he was coming home from college in Connecticut so he could spend a few days in the city with Kay, driving home the point that he puts his Americanized college girlfriend ahead of his family. And by the way, if you grew up in the New York metropolitan area, the city means Manhattan. If someone says, "I'm going into the city," nobody thinks you mean Paramus. It's at the hospital where Michael goes through three very important changes. Seeing that his father is unprotected, he springs into action. And here's the line that sums up exactly what he's going through.
I'm with you now. I'm with you.
So after all the years of trying to distance himself from his father, seeing the man who raised him in peril stirs something inside him. He's with him now, literally and figuratively. Next, when he and Enzo the baker pretend to have guns to scare off assassins, his calmness makes him realize that he is, in fact, cut out for this world he had once wanted nothing to do with. And third, when McCluskey, a crooked police sergeant who is clearly working for Sollozzo, punches Michael, Michael lets go of any illusion that America isn't corrupt. He realizes his father's way of getting by in this world isn't as villainous as he once believed. His naivete is gone. He is forever changed, symbolized by his broken jaw. And that's a great writer trick, altering the character's physical appearance to reflect their inner change. Tasty. The next pivotal moment comes when Michael offers his solution.
But if Clemenza can figure a way to have a weapon planted there for me, then I'll kill them both.
And a little extra insight if you didn't read the book. Everybody laughs at the thought of Michael shooting Sollozzo because he's a good college boy. But Sonny laughs because deep down he always knew squeaky clean Michael would come around to the dirty family business. And let's talk about Michael's plan. If they could figure out where the meeting was and hide a gun inside, couldn't they just have sent someone else to kill Sollozzo and McCluskey? Maybe deep down Michael wants to do this. The meeting takes place at Lou's restaurant. The sign reads Italian-American restaurant, not Italian restaurant. Subtle, but on theme. When Michael and Sollozzo talk Italian, there are no subtitles. This is not an accident. The book makes it clear that Michael is so nervous he's having trouble with his Italian and can't fully understand what Sollozzo is saying. He's still more American than Italian at this point, but that won't last long. And fun little tidbit, Sollozzo calls Michael Migalucci, which is Italian for little Michael or Mikey. I had many an older Italian relative used to call me Migalucci. Sollozzo also pleads with Michael, saying, "You're Italian, just like your father," as if that was going to change his mind. It didn't. Michael kills them both and forever alters his destiny. And what does Vito think about Michael carrying out the hit?
Michael. It was Michael who killed Sollozzo.
This is the last thing in the world that Vito wanted. He wanted Michael to become legitimate in his new country, a senator, a governor. And this is classic immigrant thinking. An immigrant comes here, they break their backs because they want something better for their children. So Vito may have won the war with Sollozzo, but having to have his college-educated war hero son go on the lam was a price too big for him to pay. Michael goes to Sicily, where the Italian-American will become much more Italian than American. Remember when I said family didn't just mean mother, father, brother, sister? Well, when Michael goes to Sicily, he learns the Italian way, the Sicilian way, the Mafia way. And The Godfather is the first gangster movie to really dive deep into culture, specifically Sicilian culture, Italian-American culture around New York, right down to the gabagool sandwiches at the wedding. Up until then, gangsters were mostly bad stereotypes, but Puzo and Coppola wanted this to be accurate. They even argued over the correct way to make sauce, which, by the way, all Italians do. In fact, Clemenza puts too much sugar in the sauce. You see, putting tomato paste in your sauce is a cheat. It gets it to thicken up much sooner, but it's bitter, so you have to put sugar to counteract the bitterness, and then it ends up tasting like ketchup. And that's why most chain restaurant pizza is terrible. Also, Clemenza puts wine in his sauce, which is something a northern Italianer would do, not a Sicilian, and that's why he says this is my trick. Little fun fact. In Sicily, Michael meets Apollonia. He asks her father for permission to court her. And their date with the entire family following along is night and day, from he and Kay sneaking a couple of nights in the city without his parents knowing about it. Meanwhile, Sonny is killed because Carlo and Barzini exploit his weakness, his love of family. He goes to his sister to seek revenge on her abusive husband, but it was a ruse to get him to leave the safety of the compound. Michael finds out Sonny is dead, then Apollonia dies in a car bombing meant for him. A double blow that hardens him even more.
No! No,
When he sees Kay again back in America, he's a much different man than he was at the beginning of the film. And his view of America and its politicians, something that as a Marine he once fought for, is much different.
Senators and presidents don't have men killed.
Who's being naive, Kay?
He's in charge of the family now and won't tolerate disloyalty from anybody.
You're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again.
There's a deleted scene that shows that Michael has become even more set in the old school ways than his father.
What about Sonny? What about Sicily?
I swore that I would never break the peace.
But won't they take that as a sign of weakness?
It is a sign of weakness.
You gave your word that you wouldn't break the peace. I didn't give mine.
When Vito and Michael talk, Vito tells him that he had wanted him to be the one pulling the strings. Senator Corleone, Governor Corleone. Michael dismisses this as another pezzinovante. Pezzinovante is an Italian word meaning big shot. It is not a compliment. The fact that Michael chose the word pezzinovante instead of big shot hints at his transformation, but it's the plans he makes that illustrate it even more. Vito dies playing with his grandchild, an apt end to a man that prioritized family above all else. Then Michael does what Vito swore not to: seek revenge. He wipes out the heads of the other 5 families. He kills Mo Green. He kills Tessio. And as a perfect bookend to the wedding scene that opened the film, it takes place during another family gathering / religious ceremony, a baptism, where Michael literally becomes a godfather. I mean, there are so few perfect sequences in movies, so let's just take a second to soak that in. Also, these killings weren't just revenge. Let's not forget what the Don once said.
And then they will fear you.
Michael knew he needed to be feared. Otherwise, the other families would have smelled blood in the water and kept chiseling away at the Corleone's territory. It's why Tessio made the deal.
It's the smart move. Tessio was always smarter.
It was the smart move until Michael made his play and completed his transformation. And this wasn't something he learned in college. He learned it in Sicily. He learned it from his father. But what about killing Carlo? Is that something Vito would have done? Kill his own sister's husband? Made her a widow? I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments, because I'm not sure. This is truly one of the greatest character arcs in all of cinema and literature. The power of family, heritage, and birthright override any attempt he makes to be his own person. He cannot outrun his destiny. This is no mere gangster shoot-'em-up. This is a Shakespearean tragedy that makes you question whether we have free will or if nature and nurture predetermine who we are in the womb. This is pretty heady stuff for a mob flick. The movie ends as Michael closes the door on his American wife and the life he could have had. The perfect end to a perfect movie. And one would think the end of the character's arc, but not so fast. Coppola was upset that people seemed to see Michael as a hero, and he vowed in the second movie to destroy the Corleones. And boy, did he. But how do you follow perfection with perfection? Well, I'll put it right here when it's done. Until then, enjoy these deep dives into the original Star Wars trilogy. Also, check out my novel, Falling into Shadow, coming soon. It's kind of a Game of Thrones in space. There's no mafia, but there are corrupt oligarchs and complex family dynamics. You could tell it's written by a Godfather fan. Also, you might want to check out my other channel, An Idiot from Long Island Drops Some Knowledge. I'm the idiot, so if you want to learn about stuff from someone who's not one of them stuffy book nerds, check it out. Go on, do it. Come on, don't make me ask again. Do it. Click it. Come on.